Good evening, YouTube. You're at the Piper Report. I'm with a fellow YouTuber, Texan, and today we are going to talk
Hey,
about domestic and foreign issues. So, Tex, welcome.
how's it going?
No, not too bad. So, I guess to start, tell us about your channel. Like, what's about, how long have you been doing it, etc., etc.
My channel it's a political news commentary channel, something like Sticks, X, and Hammer's channel or Stephen Molyneux's, people like that who I admire. And I decided to go that route. And I've on that his channel for about 2 months now, almost 2 months.
I saw with Sticks, he kind of like basically started off a bunch more people joining YouTube. It seemed like once he started kind of not endorsing people, like doing a shout out, it seemed like a lot more people's channels tend to grow a lot quicker. I mean, that was pretty cool of him to do.
Yeah, and especially Malde Buddha. I've seen Malde Buddha make some really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I started watching The Hard Bastard. Do you ever see him?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's pretty good.
and, Black Pigeon also is one of the
Yeah.
ones that's really good who I discovered recently.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we'll start with some domestic issues. What are your thoughts on Antifa?
Antifa. I can see where these kids get their motivation to join Antifa because they don't see a future for themselves. So the knee-jerk reaction is to get involved in a group like that because out of frustration and not having, they think they don't have a future and they think everything's stacked against them. And I can understand the motivation, but they're going about obviously the wrong way, and
Yeah.
they don't understand that well you have to create your own what was it opportunity, and you have to create your own future.
Well, what I find about it funny too is that I mean Antifa is short for anti-fascist. Yet
Yeah,
they basically incorporate fascist mentality in their actions. Like they block the freedom of speech. They don't let like Milo Yiannopoulos go to Berkeley. They don't let Ann Coulter go to Berkeley. I
yeah,
mean, like these people they claim to be anti-fascist, yet they do the epitome of fascism almost.
yeah. That's the problem. It's like I view them as like the Bolsheviks in Russia. Okay, about 1900, 1905, and the rise of the Bolshevik of a called communist in Russia before they had the Russian Revolution in 1917. You know, a lot of people they didn't have anything; they're half starved. The czars were corrupt. The Tsar Nicholas II, his whole government was corrupt, out of touch. So the people went to the communists because it was the only thing that promised them a future. And that's the scary part: is these Antifa members they're being led down a path of death and destruction, and they don't understand what they're getting themselves into.
Well, I listen like Ron Paul a lot, and he always said it's kind of funny when you actually look at the history. Like revolutions usually start for a good thing, but they always end up being worse than how they started, pretty much. Like
Yeah,
they take away
Venezuela.
warrior rights just after the revolution.
I know we're
It's
watching this happen right now in Venezuela.
yeah, yeah. So with that, then, do you think the First Amendment is under attack?
Oh, very much so. The
Yeah.
whole Constitution may be rewritten in our lifetimes if we can keep it from staying in staying the way it is. We're going to lose it.
Yeah. Well, I noticed too is like the media thinks Trump is the one that's attacking the First Amendment because he calls them out on their bullshit. Yet
Yeah,
it's really Antifa are the ones that are actually destroying the First Amendment by neglecting anyone from giving their opinion on what they think of the world. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's hate speech or not. They have the right to express themselves. They should not be neglected that right to go to a campus because although Antifa members don't want to hear them, there are other people that do want to hear them. But the press doesn't
yeah,
want to report on that. The press only cares about reporting that Trump said we're fake news, that we're the enemy of the people. No, report on Antifa as well because they are the true threat, in my opinion, to the First Amendment. They're the ones that are blocking people from speaking at universities.
exactly. And the sad part is we created this whole generation. Their parents are the ones that are coming up the post or the parents of the Antifa members, if I can figure this out right, were the ones that grew up in the 60s and 70s and 80s, sort of the special snowflake mentality.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they raise their kids with you're gonna ride a bicycle down the street, you gotta wear a helmet, you gotta wear extra pads, you can't say this, you can't do this. So we created these kids who you can't say no to either. That's another fact. They're not used to hearing the word no. They're not used to hearing the word "get a job" or telling them something bad, and their feelings get hurt. Now they have to protest, and they're acting like 3-year-olds or 2-year-olds. They're having temper tantrums.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because Clint Eastwood called this generation a bunch of pussies, and they are. I mean, there's safe spaces now. Like they actually have safe spaces so people can go and hide away from. Life isn't fair. You're gonna, life isn't fair. You're gonna get attacked. You're gonna be insulted. It's best to face it head on, not go hide in a corner and wish for it to go away. I mean,
Exactly.
it's
One of my
some
favorite
people.
characters. One of my favorite characters in the movie I have to go back to every now and then for a reality check and a laugh is Arlie Emery in the first 10 minutes of Full Metal Jacket when they
Oh yeah.
first boot camp. Says, you're not special, you're not this, you're not this. Oh, boy, I'd like to line all those kids up, and Antifa kids, and line them up and run that
Yeah.
run right through Marine Corps boot camp.
It adds on to that too that these same people that like these social justice warriors, they think that they are actually entitled to other people's like money, for instance. They think that not only should they get entitlements, they deserve entitlements. They were
Yeah,
born into a country that should give them what they want. Like no one wants to work anymore for their own future, you know? Like
exactly.
America was founded on the concept of free enterprise. You build your own future. You create your future. But now they want it handed to them, and my personal opinion is that this mentality is actually making things worse in the end run than it was 50 years ago. Like we are devolving as a culture, as a society.
I know, and I look at the throughout American history, and like the great grandfathers and great grandfathers of these people were fought World War II, went through the Depression, and went through World War II, and then they raised kids and thought, okay, we're going to give these kids as much our kids, the 1960s generation, the Hillary Clinton generation, give them as much as we can. They don't want them to suffer. Well, they created a generation of spoiled brats from the 1960s. Okay, it came of age in the mid to late 1960s. Well, then the grandparents, those grandparents are the like Hillary Clinton's generation. Their grandkids are now the Antifa kids. So it's just like you see this decline in generations as we go
Yeah.
from the greatest generation down to what we have now.
All right. Well, I guess let's go to foreign now. Assad, the chemical weapons attack. First off, do you agree with Trump's reaction to that? Do you think we should have bombed Assad in Syria the way we did?
I have two theories on that. One, yes, I agree because Trump had to okay, he was just been in office. He had to show the world that he is willing to fight if we have to. Ronald Reagan did this back in '83 when he invaded Grenada, which is a small podunk country, which a Boy Scout troop could overtake. Okay, pretty much. And in
Pretty much, yeah.
1986, exactly, 1986 with the shooting down the Libyan MiGs. And it's basically sending a message to the rest of the world, I'm willing to attack anybody. When I say don't do this, I really mean it. Don't do this. And he attacked. Now, what I believe, my personal theory, is that the White Hat group is one that committed that gas attack.
The white helmets.
White helmets, committed that attack without Assad's knowledge, and also try to get us further involved in the war. We had to do something. We're in a rock and a hard place. Trump had to do something to say, hey, look, I told you don't use chemical weapons. I say don't use chemical weapons. Don't use weapons of mass destruction. I mean it, and he attacked. He attacked a worthless airfield with about $10 million worth of 1970s Libyan junk, Russian junk. Nothing, not much was damaged. Old planes and planes that would never fly again. Okay, and I noticed a week later, because the white helmets, my personal theory is the white helmets ran by the ISIS members in that cave. A week later, we took out that cave with that Moab. Out of nowhere, we dropped that Moab down that cave. So I think Trump knew this, and his other people knew, the intelligence people, and knew this, and like, okay, we're going to have to get even with ISIS now for making us do this attack. So let's go ahead and let's go out to where that intelligence, where that videotape was probably edited and everything else, which was that cave, and then sent that Moab down that cave and took those people out.
Yeah. My opinion, I mean, I understand why he did it. Like you said, he had to show force. Yeah, he's a new
Yeah,
president. He couldn't act just like, meek about it. I hope though we don't send any ground troops there. My main
ex-
thing is McMaster's. McMaster's talks with John McCain like every day. They're good friends.
yeah,
John McCain's a neocon. Lindsey Graham's a neocon. When all the neocons want us to spend billions of dollars in the war machine and go to Syria,
yeah,
interventionism, to me, that means that there is a problem. That means that they specifically want us to attack Syria because, in my opinion, they want to go to war with Russia. They want
yeah,
perennial war with Russia, everlasting war. And I hope that Trump doesn't fall for it. I
yeah,
fear that since Flynn is out and he has McMaster's now, that McMaster's to me looks like he's a war hawk. Looks like he actually wants to go to war, and I fear that Trump might actually listen to him more than he should.
yeah. I agree. I agree. That's a big threat, fear of mine also. I don't. How did McMaster's get in there in the first place in
Yeah,
Trump's White House?
it's
I want
just
to know.
I don't know. Like Flynn was. I mean, I guess I understood why they fired Flynn. I don't agree with it though. I don't know. I did a video like a week ago or so that it seems like the Republicans always acquiesce or give in to whenever the Democrats bitch and moan about stuff. They cry about Mike Flynn being tied with Russia. They fire him. They cry about Jeff Sessions being with Russia. He
Yeah,
steps down. Bill O'Reilly, they always give in. And it feels like, I mean, me personally, I'm a libertarian. I am kind of fiscally conservative and socially moderate. I think
yeah.
Republicans, though, need to grow some backbone and actually stand up to Democrats and not always acquiesce to every time they complain and moan. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, you got a very valid point right there. Americans, especially younger Americans, don't like to be told no. And the Republicans are really good at that. And when they used to be real good at that. And so they want to keep their seats, they want to keep their power. And the main reason why they want to keep their power is because they're making an awful lot of money off of the stock market while in
Yep.
Congress and the Senate. That's what Nancy Pelosi does through getting stock tips from people she helps with their
She
special.
is such a joke, Pelosi. Wow.
The amount of corruption is just unreal.
Her, Maxine Waters, Dianne Feinstein, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, they all need to die or just get out of Congress because they
Yeah,
do more harm to the U.S. than good.
yeah, no. There's the main thing is just be voted out. Maybe the Americans, some of the people in their respective districts, will just vote them out.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
we can
there's
hope.
that. I know.
I guess we'll see what happens. How about North Korea now? What do you think? Do you think we should use military against them? Diplomacy?
Military. I think Trump's doing the right thing because he saw the mistakes that George Bush Jr. made, automatically going on Iraq and Afghanistan. Let's go get them, boots on the ground, blah blah blah. Build a coalition of the willing, the whole 9 yards, and he doesn't get us bogged down in a quagmire in North Korea, especially when the North Koreans have weapons of mass destruction, we know of, and nukes for sure. It could go nuclear. It will go nuclear if we invade North Korea. You can pretty much count on it. I'll be surprised if nukes on the North Korean side were not used. I'm expecting it. Now, right now, the diplomacy by cutting off, working with China, that's where Trump's Trump card is, no pun intended. Okay. He is really trying to work with China on this, and China's getting sick and tired of North Korea's shit. Finally, we got somebody, the Chinese president, the current president, and is tired of North Korea's behavior also, and has basically put them on notice. So North Korea is running out of friends, running out of options, running out of fuel imports from China, money, and other things. So maybe they'll get the message. Just quit playing with nuclear weapons, quit playing with missiles, and don't threaten other countries, and everything's fine. We'll leave you alone.
What I'm kind of worried about that too is that I can't see someone like Kim Jong Un just giving up so easily. Even if he's getting
Yeah.
strong arm from China, his father Kim Jong Il, I think it was, he was
Yeah.
given the first title of Supreme Commander because they asked him a question: if North Korea was getting attacked, what would you do? And he essentially said that we would bomb them with everything we can until we all die. So they basically compared him to a deity that. So they gave him the title Supreme Commander because he would die and he would make sure everyone
Yeah.
else dies before they give up. So in that
Yeah.
regard, I don't know. I think eventually there will be some type of military action against North Korea. I can't see someone like Kim Jong Un just giving up and giving in so easily. How Trump handles that, though, he's going to need definitely South Korea, China, Japan. I mean, he has to build some kind of unified front to all of them go at North Korea at
Yeah.
once, so they know, like, hey, it's not just you against the U.S. It's you against China, Japan, and
Yeah.
all these people. So
I think that's what's happening now. Trump is trying to obviously build a coalition, and I think he's trying to avoid going into North Korea at all costs. If we have to go into North Korea, they'll go into North Korea to win. But he's trying to avoid this because he knows if we go in, it's going to be a bloody nightmare.
yeah,
And that's a serious part about it, especially for boots on the ground, because this is a whole another different type of army. It's completely different from Afghan rebels and terrorists and ISIS and the ones in Iraq. Okay, they're not going to be giving up and this and that. They're not going to be in the first part of the Iraq War and all that. They were surrendering left and right. That's not going to happen with the North Koreans. So it's gonna. Okay, I look at history a lot. History repeats itself. I look at Iwo Jima, what the Marines had to go through to take this one small island of Iwo Jima. They had to fight every step of the way. They had to break down and use flamethrowers to cook Japanese soldiers out of a hole and then shoot them as they came running out of the hole on fire. And they had to go foot by foot by foot. And I see most of North Korea being that kind of fighting. Trump is trying to avoid it at all costs. If we have to, we'll win. We'll go in. But Trump realizes that this is going to be a nightmare.
oh, yeah, it's going to be hard on Trump because whatever Trump does, he's essentially putting South Korea right in the midst of it because North Korea
Yeah.
can nuke South Korea and kill tens of millions of
Yes.
people. So it
Totally.
must be hard. It must be weighing on his decision that if I attack North Korea, basically say goodbye to South Korea. And
Yeah.
South Korea is our ally.
Yeah. Seoul, South Korea, I think, if I recall, has 24 million people in the vicinity within artillery striking distance of the DMZ. And there's thousands of artillery pieces, heavy North Korean artillery pieces lined up on the DMC. They can just load up on mass salvo, and they can load up binary shells of sarin nerdage and other stuff, and just start lobbing it into Seoul, South Korea.
And Kim Jong Un was crazy enough to do so too.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. So that's why we're hoping that maybe some opportunistic general in North Korea will just pull his pistol out and shoot Kim Jong Un in the back of the head and say, "Okay, I'm taking over. I don't want a war."
well, this would also be a good time to invest more in cyber warfare. I mean, we can actually use cyber threats to demolish their nuclear capabilities. Then they can't launch nukes, and we can go in. But I'm not sure. I
I
guess
think
how
we're
we
doing
can do that. What's that?
last two North Korean missiles did hardly made it off the pad and
Yeah,
destroyed. So the theory is that the
yeah, that
as
the
well as
U.S. did it.
But what they had to say about the North Koreans is they're so low tech and there's so little IT infrastructure in North Korea that cyber warfare is hard to pull off.
All right, let's go back to France now. Me personally, I am disappointed in the French people. Marine Le Pen was their chosen one. She could
Yeah.
have saved France, in my opinion, and she lost. And instead, they nominate and they elect as president a plutocrat who is a banker, who's a Rothschild's banker, who, I mean, you cannot trust any kind of plutocrat, in my opinion. And he is the
Yeah.
epitome of I don't know. I look at him. I cannot imagine how the French people actually elected him.
Macron is going to be a heir apparent for the one in Germany, Merkel's heir apparent, because Merkel's going to retire in September, if I recall, hearing one of the news reports. And so Macron's going to take over for the whole EU thing and this and that. And the French in their culture, they'll almost the French will probably never vote a conservative into their government. I don't ever see that happening because it's already the way the French people are and their mentality is they want their socialized health care, their 3 weeks of vacation every year, and this and that. And it's so ingrained in their culture getting this stuff already that they're worried about if Le Pen got in there, they would lose. And then if they're being bombarded with the counter propaganda from Macron saying that, oh yeah, Le Pen is a fascist and a Nazi and this, when we know that's not true. All she wants
That's
to
what's so shocking too. Macron came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he has the backing of all the media organizations,
yeah,
the newspapers, the billionaire class.
all
This
the
guy
big
who's
money.
like unknown, all of a sudden has all the support. It's like it's
Yeah,
obviously he is corrupt, or he has a billionaire class supporting his agenda.
yeah, exactly. And Macron he's part of the good old boy club. Okay, he's like the Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton of the system out there, and he's in with them. He's in with the money, and if nationalism is a threat to globalism, and if they get a nationalist in there, the globalists lose money. That's what it is. At the end of the day, it's like what's going on in Congress and Senate. They're corruption. They don't want they got their hands in the cookie jar. And when Trump got in there, he's like yanking away the cookie jar. Okay, from a bunch of little kids. And it's the same thing that happened in France. They got to keep their cookie jar, keep their government programs flowing, the money flowing to defense contractors, and they got to keep the tax great laws where people, great laws for corporations where people are forced to buy their products. Hence, Obamacare.
I do think, though, in 5 years, the next election, because I maintain that France will continue to decline. I mean,
I
their economy will go down, their terrorism go up. I think the French people will actually wake up, and I think if Le Pen will probably be the favorite next time, because if we compare France with Germany and Sweden, ever since Germany started accepting refugees, their crime rate's up 96%. Sweden's
yeah
now the rape capitalist of the world. I mean, the
yeah
rape culture is everywhere there. They're going to be the minority soon. I think the
yeah
French people will see in a couple years how wrong they were. And I did hear, I saw an article that Le Pen is actually changing her party now a little bit to kind of get away from her father because her father is like really anti-Semitic. So I think that could
yeah
also help maybe seize some of the fears that French people have over her. I'm
yeah.
thinking in 5 years, it's a really good chance that she will win because the country of France will devolve and dilapidate so much that it could pretty much be how Germany and Sweden are now.
Oh yeah, I know. I agree. I agree. And I don't know what happened to Germany or Sweden. What became of this? I remember back in the 1980s when this is before the DDR, the East Germany was absorbed by West Germany, and the West Germans were completely opposite of what this is. I think that the Germany de-evolved because as soon as this is interesting, as soon as the DDR the wall came down, the Berlin Wall came down, and they absorbed East Germany. You got so many millions of people in East Germany that were used to free handouts, free stuff, the government taking care of them, having somebody in control. And that's what caused the decline of Germany starting in the 1990s to present, was absorbing the DDR.
Yeah, Merkel, she's a joke. To me, it's amazing that people can still defend and support her. Like they want to, I guess I'm going to go back a little bit here. I understand how they want to be altruistic in that they want to, get the people that are suffering in Syria into their country. But they should never, a leader should never do that at the expense of the safety of their own citizens. So it's maybe a good thing to bring, suffering Syrian refugees over. But if your own citizens are suffering because of it, rape is going up, crime's going up, then no, you should not do that anymore. You should take care of your country first and then take care of others. Do safe
Yeah.
spaces in Syria, not bring these people over who are causing
Oh,
harm.
yeah. I
You know?
agree. If I recall, one point I want to make is Merkel, if I recall correctly, in the 1980s, she worked for the East German government. Okay, so her mentality growing up under the communists
Yeah.
in the 60s and 70s as a young woman through now, because she's probably in her 60s. I mean, back all those decades ago, is it gave her this mentality that she has now to bring Germany and what was Western Germany and Eastern Germany, Greater United Germany, into more of a socialist paradigm.
Yeah. All right. I guess on a final note, what do you think of Trump so far? How's he doing
Trump
as president?
Okay, on the warfare front part, Trump's done really good because all he did was bomb a cheap airfield out in the middle of the desert in Syria. That's it, and as a show of force, didn't go any further into Syria. I think we had to completely pull out of Syria, by the way, the whole 9 yards, CIA, everything, everybody. Let the Russians have Syria. Um, so Trump's smart to stay out of that. Okay, he realized that's a quagmire like Iraq or Afghanistan. Trump's handling of North Korea has been excellent, trying everything, like we've talked about, everything he can possibly try before we have to actually go to war with North Korea. And he's trying to avoid, he's reading, studying his history, he's looking at the mistakes George Bush Jr. made, and he's not repeating them. On the national front, so far, he's done really good with the executive order, the blitz of the executive orders, his first month in the White House. He's done really well with that. The economy's been stimulated. I'm seeing down here in Texas a lot more work and jobs coming up. People more optimistic, obviously, and I think he's doing good so far. And he's had a few screw ups, but this compared to the last 8 years or the
Yeah.
last 16 years, this is a breath of fresh air.
So what do you think of his proposed tax plan?
I don't know too much about it yet, to be honest with you. I think, okay, looking at the budget, this is one that I can talk about. Whenever countries in your household or my household or anybody's household, if you spend more money than you make, you're going to go broke at the end of the month and you'll be in debt. You can't
Yep.
afford your bills. Okay, you take in 1.2 trillion or 1.3 trillion, but you spend 1.4 or 1.5 trillion. What's the disconnect here? Where I don't understand
Yep.
this.
It's bad.
In the White House and in the Senate and Congress saying we need to cut this, we need to cut this. No more aircraft carriers. I love big ships with big guns. Okay, but we're no more. There's the Ford class aircraft carriers. We have one so far. We're afford 13 billion each. How many more do we need?
And that's kind of my main issue is that, they always want to spend more on the military. Well, we already pay more on our military than the next 12 countries combined.
Exactly.
Trump's tax plan is, I like how he's dropping the corporate tax rate to 15%. I agree with that because that's going
Yeah.
to incentivize countries to come back over and research and develop in our country. But he has like for the highest tax bracket 35 and then 25 and 10, I want to say. I think
Yeah.
he should keep the highest bracket as it is now, 39.6, and instead drop the middle class from 25 to like 15 or even 10. This way, that would also get the middle class more money to spend on the economy. By
Yeah.
doing this, there is a tax cut all around, but at the same time, he is helping out the rich of the rich, and that's going to fuel the media narrative that he only cares about the
Yeah.
rich. If you would have kept that the same and just huge tax break for the lower class and middle class, I think it would go a lot farther.
Hillary would have done the same
Oh
thing.
yeah, Hillary, no. And like you said earlier too, our main problem isn't really taxes, it's spending. I mean, inflation is the worst kind of tax of all. And we really
Yeah.
need to cut spending, but what's really sad is that Calvin Coolidge and Warren Harding cut taxes by like 65% the first year, 45% the second year. Since then, the most like the US cuts taxes or the Congress does, not taxes. The most the U.S. Congress cuts spending is like 1%. I mean, Coolidge did 65%. Congress does now like 1%. That's
Yeah.
huge. We should really just cut a shit ton of spending, cut taxes, and we will see the economic boom like crazy. But they don't want to do that ever. They keep on wanting to expand government and make government bigger and better.
And then have the corporations are turning around paying off the people in Congress and Senate to make that happen.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. So it's a deadly paradigm. The I just don't spend more money than you take in at the end of the day. And then you find out, I'll bring it down. We can start making payments in the national debt. What my long-term big fear is when we get to the point we can no longer pay the interest on the national debt. Okay, that'll collapse our economy, and then we're going to be pretty much shed luck at that
And
point.
that's one of the reasons we have to get rid of the Federal Reserve. I mean, we pay the Federal Reserve about $500 billion a year on interest payments alone. The Federal
Yeah,
Reserve it's horrible. And what people don't understand is that every time the Federal Reserve raises interest rates by 0.25%, that costs the taxpayers an extra $50 billion a year. $50
Yeah.
billion for a point, they should not have any control over the U.S. economy. The Federal
Yeah.
Reserve is just, we should dismantle it. We should audit it first because when we audit it, we will discover all the crony capitalism they do and all the spending they do overseas. And then after that, just get rid of them. Get rid of all of them.
I know. We're in a rock and a hard place right
Oh,
now.
yeah. I do want to say, though, I do like Donald Trump, how under his administration, the illegal immigration dropped by like, I don't know, I think 60% or something like that. They
Yeah.
said,
Sure. Down here in South Texas, I'm getting reports back that along the near McAllen border, the it's down probably 90%, as much as 90%. Just a trickle coming in over the border.
see, that's good. That I do like. And to that regard, I mean, the wall is good. I don't mind the wall, but really, if we would only just take away all the benefits that immigrants get, illegal immigrants, they won't
Yeah.
come here then. They come here for the benefits. And you to get rid of their welfare and their health care, all that stuff. Those same immigrants aren't going to come here anymore. They're going to stay where they are.
And then people that legally come over here as immigrants, they get so much money thrown at them for free school, free this, free housing, free food, and they never paid a dime into the system.
Yeah,
You
that's how it
know,
works.
back in the 19th century, the Irish would, or whatever group came in, would hit the pier in New York City, Ellis Island, or something like that. It's like, hey, you're on your own, and they knew they had to hustle and get up and running.
I guess so. For a one final question here, what are some things you hope Donald Trump will work toward on his next 100 days?
A better budget plan that he's put out. That's what we are just talking about. Um, Trying to do everything possible to keep us from getting us into a war in North Korea, because that will run up the budget right there. That'll run up the debt, national debt, huge. And just listen to his advisors and listen to all the people out there, especially on the internet, to sometimes be a little more careful about some of the stuff he says and some of the stuff he does, so he doesn't get trapped where the Democrats and his critics can't use his energy against him.
Yeah.
You know, this whole deal, Comey, he had to do what he had to do, but you notice I did a video about this today. They keep pushing this whole deal with this Trump and Russians working with Trump during the election in collusion for and there's no evidence for it, and I call it reasonable guilt. Reasonable guilt. They keep pushing Trump is guilty, Trump is guilty, Trump is guilty, and everybody gets that in their mindset.
Yep, that's the whole point. They got to spread a narrative. They got to do whatever they can to hurt Donald Trump's
Yeah.
ratings, to hurt him as a person. They hate him. I mean, they don't just dislike him. They hate him. They hate him more than anything. I've never seen the press attack a president so much as compared to Donald Trump. Like he gets attacked worse than George Bush does or did.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I know. I remember back in 1980, the media attacking Ronald Reagan. It was just relentless because he was an outsider also. Even though he was a former governor of California, he was a part of the Good Old Boy Club. And George Bush Jr., Obama, and everybody else had been part of the Good Old Boy Club until Trump came along. And now he's up and running, and he scares the hell out of everybody because he's going to take away the cookie jar.
Yep. Alrighty, well, I guess it was fun. I thank you for coming on here. It was a good talk. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
you guys,
you.
you can check out his channel, Texan. Links in the description. So,
Okay.
Tex, thank you for coming on.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yep, talk to you later.
Okay, hang